Alright, so the illustration has come a long way since I did the last video, but basically it was just more of the same, just drawing with that exact 3-point brush and kind of working from some reference to trace over and kind of get myself in the right sort of composition. So now that the illustration is mostly done, I had to do a little bit of editing. Now, in some cases, this would probably be fine and I'd be ready to go. All I would have to do is flatten all my lines, merge them all together, and then move them onto the plate. But in this case, the illustration is actually going to be printed in reverse. So the way this is going to be printed is silver on navy paper, which is going to really change the illustration. So I have to do a lot of additional editing to it. So I've actually already started that over here. So what I did was originally I tried just inverting the illustration, so making all of the areas that are dark silver and dropping the white into a navy color. And for something like a floral illustration, I think that would have been fine and I wouldn't have needed to go any further. But because this has things like facial details and there's a lot of sort of line work kind of surrounding it, I think I needed to sort of edit it up a little bit so it didn't look kind of like a negative, like a photo negative, a little off. So in this case, I actually kept these areas in the foreground. So now instead of printing the line art, I'm going to be printing instead the solid areas. Now this brings up a couple problems. On a large printing press, this wouldn't be an issue. I could just print this as it is, it would be perfectly fine. But because my press is small and because my press is a platen press, I have to adjust this image a little bit more to make sure that I'm going to get good ink coverage. So with a cylinder press, as sort of like the tip-in and the paper kind of comes around on that drum, it's keeping even pressure across the image, almost like the way a scanner would move. So like inch by inch, it's squeegeeing across with pressure. Now with the platen, it has to take the impression in one press, which helps with creating really nice impressions, and it works really well on thick papers. But for something like this, I'm worried that some of the solid areas might be too large to get good ink coverage in a single pass. And then if I print it twice, which might be a workaround, there's a potential of some of the details filling in. So I've already kind of started doing this, but you can see I'm actually bringing in more negative space, in this case the paper, back into the image. So where here there wasn't really a need for that, I'm kind of adding that back in over here. And another thing I'm trying to remember is because this is getting printed, as you'll see later in the videos, this is getting printed on a folder that the invitations are going to go in. I need to make sure that I'm leaving enough space for my pins to hold the paper when I feed it into the press. Now, this is a pre-made folder, so I don't even have the opportunity to trim down. I can't buy a bigger size, trim it down. They already come at the 5x7 and I can't trim. So I need to make sure that there's negative space around at least 3 edges. So this would probably be one edge, and then maybe this side as the other, or potentially this side. Enough room for the gauge pin to fit without the polymer plate smashing into it. So everywhere there's silver is going to be a risen area on the plate. And I think that looks really good here and really good here, but I'm going to try and come back in and darken up some areas around and inside the foliage to kind of lessen the workload for the press. And then I'm honestly still not 100% sure how well this is going to print, so I am going to order a plate that looks just like this, and if when we get to it, this is not working and I absolutely cannot make it work, then we will just go with the reverse image. So that's something I've covered with the client, and I'm going to make sure that they understand that that's a potential. They have already seen the version that looks reversed, and I'm actually going to show you that real quick. So somewhere over here in the process, okay, so you can see this is what the image looks like in pure reverse. And there's some areas around here that maybe I could kind of fix up just a little bit. And like maybe up here and in the sort of grass, it's not terrible, you know, this is fine. But I think you're losing some of the details in the face and it kind of looks a little bit confusing. So this would be the image in pure reverse. So this, and then this. So if I was printing, for example, maybe on silver paper, which is another option I've offered to them, we could print this illustration like this on a white piece or a gray piece or a silver piece of paper and then paste it onto the folder. this is another potential option. Now, there's no way my press would be able to handle this much negative space to print, just because of the size of this being 5x7 and my press only being 7x11. It's just not, I know that won't print. So we're kind of starting to work our way towards some darker areas. So you can see I've actually, filled in the stairs a little bit, kind of starting to add more dark area to the edges and into the foliage, and that's where I'm at now. So I'm going to start doing that a little bit, and then we'll do a couple minutes of that in the video, and once I feel a little further along, we will move forward to the next stage, which will be preparing this image for the plate. So once again, I'm still using the same brush, and now I'm actually just on a new layer, which allows me to kind of see what I've added in, and I'm just going to start like painting in some of the spots where I think I can add some value and hopefully put a little less stress on my printing press.